Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to Scrap Mechanic with Lyte. And I know I promised you some timers this time, measuring terminal velocity and whatnot, but someone brought up an interesting point in the comments that I really wanted to address regarding this car and gas engines. The original design only had the electric engines, and they, in general, behave differently than the gas engine, so it is worth testing the gas. So I strapped some gas engines onto this car before realizing you can only attach one engine to each bearing. So even though I added this switch that switches between the two, you do still need to rewire them. So yeah, there's going to be some rewiring necessary, but it is still a car, it still runs, it still has the same behaviors, except I also rewired the timing belt here, such that the first button still does what it used to. It's still a one-tick pulse train where it goes on, off, on, off, on. However, I rewired the other ones to, instead of being interleaved in different ways, it instead, for button 2, it's 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. And then button 3 is 3 on, 3 off, 3 on, 3 off. And then button 4 is 4 on, 4 off. Now, I know the math doesn't work out precisely right with that, because I've only got 15 points in time, so it can be 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, and then 3 off. That's just the way the math works out, but it's fairly close to 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, 4 off, and fairly close to 3 and 3 and 3. It's just not precisely what's going on, but it's close enough to get a feel for what's going on. So when we turn on the first one, hey look, we get the standard, not really going anywhere, sometimes crab walking behavior. Hey look, there we go. Little bit of crab walk. Not too much though. Because the terrain does have a significant effect on where you go when any of these are set. So if we go to 2 and 2, we start getting vaguely car-like behavior. Keep in mind, I'm not steering right now, it's just using the terrain to do its weirdness. But, like I said, generally car-like behavior. Now I'm starting to try to turn. It does turn, eventually. But it's still only vaguely car-like behavior. It's not quite doing what we need. Then if we turn it to 3, you're still not noticing too much of the pulsing in the machine. You can't really feel that it's doing it. And now we're going a lot straighter. And even though we're still having the same amount of time on or off, we seem to be going a little bit faster. So we're getting better traction and better acceleration with 3 and 3 than we did with 2 and 2. Then if we turn that off and switch it to 4 and 4, you can start to hear and feel the pulsing. So at this point we've gone too far and we've overcompensated and we have too much dead time with the 4 and 4. It's still a car, it still moves, but the 3 and 3 works better than the 4 and 4. It's still not good, per se, but if you wanted to be able to throw your engine into half speed for a little bit, you could have logic to do so. You could have it normally firing all the time, press a button, cut it down to 3 and 3, and it's generally a car. But that's not what we're here for. I mean, that is interesting. That's good. That with 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, you get different behavior than 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. Even though the engine is still running the same percentage of the time. Now, the part that you're really going to be interested in is the gas engine. Because many of you likely suspect that the gas engine is going to solve all of these problems. Because the gas engine... Oh, wait. We're rolling downhill. Okay, that's better. The gas engine allows you to coast pretty darn well when you just hook up to a regular car. It lets you just do regular car sorts of things, like feathering the pedal. And that seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to think, that we hook up this... Oh, crap. There we go again. Whoop. Okay, we're better. Probably should have parked somewhere flat before doing this. And it's not unreasonable to think that using the gas engine would solve the problems, because if you're allowed to coast, it would make it a whole lot easier to push forward and then coast and push and coast and push and coast. It would basically lead to ideal performance. But the simple fact that I'm talking about it leads you to believe that's not the case. Because if we kick it onto 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, we get a little bit of a spinning behavior. It sometimes does the crab walk, sometimes it decides to spin, and there's the crab walk. It doesn't act like a car, it acts like a crab. So there, the gas works much like the electric did. At 2 and 2, you start getting car-like behavior, just like we did with the electric. It's moving a bit faster because gas engines are just faster. But it is a bit floaty. If you want a car that is difficult to drive for some sort of wacky type race, this gives you some pretty wacky handling. And then if we kick it up to 3 and 3, it becomes more and more car-like. It's still a bit floaty because we're still using tier 8 gas engines. They're still gnarly beasts, even when running half the time. But, I mean, 3 and 3 is generally as good a car as we had with the 4 and 4, or as we did with the electric, not the 4 and 4. The 4 and 4 was a little iffy. And then here, if we turn it to 4 and 4, it's less noticeable. You can hear that you've got that sputtering like you did with the electric, but it's not nearly as noticeable. The ride is still just as choppy and just as smooth as it was on the 3 and 3. So if we swap it, you're not going to notice too much of a difference. So it's more or less the same. But with the 2 and 2, let's go with 2 and 2, it's kind of floaty. And with the 1 and 1, you get the same exact behavior as you did with the electric, which seems weird. You wouldn't expect the gas engine to have that problem. You'd expect it to be all better. But why do we get the same performance from the gas as we did from the electric? I mean, they're subtly different, but deep down, they seem about the same. The 1 and 1 does the crab walk, the 2 and 2, it's not quite a car. 3 is fine, 4 is okay, getting to bad. Whichever type of engine you use. That seems odd. So I set up an extra little experiment over here to demonstrate that oddness on full display. You'll be able to see very clearly what we felt over there. We will see it over here. And as an extra little bonus, if you listen very carefully, you'll be able to hear it. You hear that? The moment we sat down in this chair, the engine turned on. And now it's off. Now it's on. Now it's off. When we sit in this chair, it's still all connected up. It's a car. There's a connection between the chair and the wheels, but it's indirect. The chair accesses the buttons, which access the engines. Pardon the dogs. I have no control over them. So the buttons control the engines, and the engines aren't on until the buttons are pressed. Well, the switches. Over here, the moment you sit down, that engine is on. And that's the key to the difference in the performance. What we've set up over here is the chair is hooked up directly to these two engines and this button. The button is connected directly to these two engines, and then it goes through a logic gate into those two, just in case there was a difference in the mechanism, like a decay of the signal, such they can only go so far, like redstone. But we'll see in a second, it doesn't matter. So when we sit down, the gas engine hooked up to this chair automatically starts, which is a little odd. And then when we hit go, I'm going to press forward and I'm going to hit the number 1, such that we activate all of the engines at almost the same time. The 1 is going to be a tick behind because of the logic gate. There's no guarantee I push the buttons at exactly the same time, but it'll be close enough for this test. And the gas engines are on low, the electric engines are on high to highlight the differences. And go. And there you are. See how long? Well, I think the gas engines might be on like 5. 4? 4 or 5. But you see how long it took the one to stop? Well, we know that one's the one that's hooked up to the chair. This engine right here, directly from the chair over to that one. Because it's still running the whole time. So when we go like this, shabam, it's still running, so it's not braking the one that's still spinning. It isn't causing a braking action. But when you use logic on those engines, they are on or they are off. So they start up, hit the wrong button. So they start up immediately and they stop immediately. Now, granted, the gas engine is still slower to stop than the electrics. The electrics, as you can see in the top row, they are immediate. They cause instantaneous, very strong braking. Whereas the gas, they lollygag a little. They take their time, they smooth it out. But you'll also notice some odd behavior in the electric when it starts up. Not only does the gas engine start up slower, the electric engine starts up slower when attached to the chair. So the gas engine feathers in and feathers out. The electric is slow to accelerate too. It's as if you're feathering in the electric motor too. All three are set on the same level, but they stop the same, they start differently. Now once they get going, they're all the same. They get to the same top speed, they spin the same rate. But how they get there and how they stop is not necessarily consistent, despite being the same engine. So you can no longer just talk about a gas engine. You have to talk about a gas engine powered by a chair, as opposed to a gas engine powered by logic. Now that's a thing that I would not have necessarily gone into this thinking mattered, because an engine is an engine and it's powered or it's not. I have no control over actually pushing the pedals, even though my guy isn't actually pushing any pedals. But you don't have any control over how much you press the pedal. But it would be interesting to have different strengths of pulse, such that instead of a button being on or off and logic being on or off, having it half on or a quarter on or 3/4 on, such that you have different strength of input to these engines, such that you could modify them in real time instead of having to go inside of it. Well, they're only on 2. So 2 and 8 are the settings for these. But that would be really, really fantastic, being able to have, sure, this button still sends a complete pulse, but you could pass it through a thing that cuts it in half or kicks it up to full if it's been reduced, or any number of things where you've got different strengths of pulse that lead to different strengths of engine usage, such that this one could be set to full, but something else would tell it to go to half. And then that could be based on sensors. So when your grain silo is nearing being full, it slows down the conveyor belts that are leading the stuff into it, such that you've got time to react, or turns it down lower to balance out the pipeline. There's so many fantastic things you could do with a variable strength pulse with variable strength engines, and it's clear the engines already accept different types of inputs from different objects. So probably wouldn't be too far of a stretch coding wise to get these sorts of things to work in conjunction with that. But then again, I'm not one of the devs. I don't know how much it would take. But that's all I've got for this episode. Thanks for putting up with another one of these on the engines. I'm not going to promise that next time I work on the timers, but it looks very, very likely that next episode I will compactify the timer, look at the different rates and speeds, and then hopefully have a more comprehensive model of how physics that involves time works in this game. I'd also like to thank everybody who stopped by for the various streams that I've done lately. I've been doing Minecraft on Mondays at 6:30 Eastern and Super Mario Maker on Wednesdays, also at 6:30 Eastern Time. It's mostly been Europeans and Australians, so it was not a great time for them, but it's fantastic to be able to hang out with you guys and see what's going on in your lives and have you ask interesting questions about mine and talk random bits of French at me. But it's been great. Once I get to a point where I have something that would be interesting to stream in Scrap Mechanic, I might want to do one of those as well. But for now, I will see you in the next episode of Scrap Mechanic with Lyte.